Cuffs are off, man. Get right. Too many left in these leagues, but I ain't gonna leave. I'ma get right. Get right. Down to the bottom and scratch it for all the...
Hey everybody, Adam Rank here.
What's up everybody? It's Marcus Grant.
This is AJ Dillon of the Green Bay Packers.
I gotta give a shout out to y'all at Get Right Fantasy.
If you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You want to lose your league?
Our league, check out the Get Right Fantasy Network.
You got to get right with the Get Right Fantasy Network.
And best of luck with your podcast. Appreciate the support.
And you're tuned in to watch my boys at Get Right Fantasy Network. Get you right. Enjoy the show.
But I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go and roll your sleeves up. Yeah, go and roll your sleeves up. And I'm getting down, cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting right, cause I roll my sleeves up.
What up? What up? What up, world? We are back. I'm Anthony, aka Rasta, and this is Get Right Fantasy Network. We are here for another Friday night mocks episode. I hope you guys are ready, man. It's Friday night. Pour yourselves a drink. As you saw Kendall here, we have him back again. Of course, our affiliate, new affiliate here with Get Right Fantasy Network with the Fantasy Football Tavern. Cold drink. What is it? Cold drinks? Hot takes?
You know, I say cold beers, hot takes.
Oh,
but,
cold
we're
beers.
We're
Okay.
going classy tonight. You know, we are not exclusive to love the ale.
There we go. Love it, love it. So welcome back, man. Great to have you here. And we have a new face here to the stream. We got our boy Phil here with the extra point. He's going to be coming on here with Get Right Fantasy Network as well. He'll be here Thursday nights, kind of diving in deep with those analytical stats, getting everything going for you with the Dynasty focus. So we're happy to add him here to the Get Right Fantasy Network, man. How you doing, Phil? Welcome aboard.
What up, dude? Stoked to be here. Just really excited for this. I'm really looking forward to getting some, obviously getting the mock draft done, but just getting to know some more people in the community. Look, if you want to play, shoot me a note on, shoot me a DM on Sleeper at P Ruskin. I got leagues that are starting up all the time. Obviously, we're doing mock drafts, so practice and then come and play for real. Give me a follow at the Extra Point FFB. And Rasta, like you said, man, the Extra Point's all about the little differences that help you win your league, right? Everybody wants the big name guys. They want to score touchdowns, but sometimes we need to know the little differences that are going to separate somebody from round 8, round 9. That could be a league winner in your league right there. So stoked to be here, excited for tonight, and just looking forward to having some fun with you boys.
Absolutely, man. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. So let's get into it, man. We're going to be doing our Friday night mock Superflex draft here tonight. We're going 3 wide receivers. Of course, your standard, 2 running back, 1 tight end, and we're going to run 2 flex with this one as well. Have a couple bench spots, so it's going to be 14 total rounds that we're going to get to here tonight. So we thank everybody that's coming out here with us in the mock here tonight, and then of course myself, Kendall, and Phil are in here as well. So it looks like Phil drew the 104, and then we have Kendall and I back to back here at the 6-7, right in the middle of this thing. I'm sure going to be mucking some stuff up. So let's get this thing started, man. Let me make sure I turn the volume off of this thing so we don't hear all the craziness here. So I think we're good there. All right, so let's get this thing started. We have a 60-second clock on this one here. And again, super flex, 3 wide receiver, 2 flex. Getting started on this here. So before as this thing kind of gets rolling off, gotta of course pay the bills here real quick. For those of you guys who aren't aware, we have our guys over here at TrophySmack.com. So, if you guys need to get some hardware like this to commemorate your championships in your leagues, go check out TrophySmack.com. Use that promo code GetRight when you check out. Help support the channel. Not only do they have rings like that, they have belts, all fully customizable, trophies. They got your Kirk Cousins chains that are all customizable as well. So make sure you guys go check them out, TrophySmack.com. The link's down in the description. And again, use that promo code GetRight at checkout. So here we go. So we got people going on in the chat here, and we have an interesting pick here out of the 101. We have Bijan Robinson going in the 101 here. So Interesting thoughts about that. Maybe, yeah, everyone's reacting in the chat here. So let me make sure he knows it's a Superflex
Yeah, Superflex.
on this one here. So let me, I guess we're going to let it go, man. I guess we'll let it roll. We'll see what happens with this build, but obviously in Superflex, you typically see
quarterback work. All right.
I mean,
maybe
right.
we don't. All right.
Dang, and I'm not gonna lie, at the 104 right here, to get Josh Allen, like this is, I'm just gonna talk for 10 seconds just so I don't like smash the button too fast. But like, man, thanks, fellas. You guys are so nice.
Very nice. We got a very good group out here tonight, I guess. Very nice. And again, if you guys want to come mock with us here on Friday nights, make sure you have those notifications turned on. Hit that subscribe button for us. Hit that like button if you're in here watching as well. That helps us get the video out to everyone, man. So definitely do that. And the biggest reason why is come get in our mock draft tournament. We have that going on starting July 29th. Come just mock draft with us. Basically, doesn't cost anything, but a chance to win $50 cash if you can take down the mock draft tournament. So stay tuned to that.
Hey,
so
Rusty,
yeah, man.
He's saying he doesn't know. You got 30 seconds. Any chance you wanna swap him? Give him just the top available. What do you think?
All right. Let me see. Let's see what we can do here.
Got Lamar on the board.
So since it's on my
waited
pick, I guess I'll do
pick
it.
if you want to be the bigger man, because I'm not, but I'm reaching down the board anyway. You know me. I might take Anthony Richardson at the 104, to be honest.
All right, there we go. Make your pick. So we normally don't do this, but I'd rather, just for the content at least, have that quarterback in that position, regardless of the player themselves. At least, for the position, it's going to make a lot more sense. So we'll tell him to make his pick here. I think I have to unpause
I think
it.
you have to. I think you have to pick for him.
Yeah, let me resume it here. So there we go.
So while that's happening, let me
go
let
ahead.
me bring this up, because this is a real life scenario that I was on the clock earlier today. Dynasty Superflex startup, and I was at the 103, and Mahomes was on the board, and so was Jalen Hurts. So Josh Allen went at the 101, and CJ Stroud 102. And I know we were texting about this a little bit today, back and forth. But what do you guys think as far as the rushing upside of Hurts versus the safety of Patrick Mahomes? Do you have, because my take, and I'll obviously let you guys kind of answer here in a second, but my take was, I looked at it from the 6-point touchdown lens versus the 4-point passing touchdown, because I do think that can make a difference. We know rushing quarterbacks are a cheat code in fantasy, especially in Dynasty. To have a young rushing quarterback can be the backbone of your team forever. But it's Mahomes. So where do you guys land on kind of the high upside rushing quarterback versus that safety and security of Patrick Mahomes?
Go ahead, Kendall. I'll throw it to you first.
So the way I play Dynasty typically is that the very first thing I consider is going to be, where's the market at now, and where do I think historically and given current circumstances the market's going to go. I tend to be the day trader when it comes to Dynasty. I make less picks that are based off of like redraft where or best ball in particular, where I am just trying to dominate this year. I want to draft in a very fluid accumulation of assets and also play the market so that my assets have a greater chance of maintaining or appreciating when it comes to the trade market and constantly taking advantage of pockets. So for me, and we were texting about this later, my take is that in that particular case, the stud pocket passer in Mahomes there just has significantly more trade value. And no matter what happens, there's going to be just magical trade value that you can get. So even if you're not in love with the pick, I think when you look at, if you were to go put the player on the block, and I think this is a good litmus test when you're making that decision, is to stop and say, okay, I've already drafted one or either of these players. What is a trade I can construct that I would feel good about that's realistic? And when you line up two different trades side by side, what do you think you get done? What do you don't? I think in more cases than not, the Mahomes pick is where you're going to be able to get some things done that you can't necessarily get with with the Hurts pick or the Anthony Richardson, that high end rushing. There's just a little bit of I haven't quite seen it yet, and there's just some magic in the rings on the finger and all that jazz, right? So for me, that's what makes my tiebreaker. In my own personal rankings, do I have it that way? Look, it's close, but I'm not going by my rankings. I'm going by my rankings might be the tiebreaker, but I'm going by what I think is a significant market value there.
Thought I was going to get Marvin Harrison to fall to me there, guys. No lie.
Interesting from Jake
hurt.
the Snake in a super flex going Jamar Chase and MHJ back to back. I mean, I don't hate the picks, obviously, great players, but just an interest. I'm curious to see what his build ends up looking like here a little bit later tonight.
Ross, I'm curious. You got the running back versus wide receiver.
I'm really trying to decide. Like, do I go win now or do I build out my receivers in a 3 wide receiver set? I don't want to fall behind in wide receiver, so I think I'm going to have to go Garrett Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved Marvin Harrison there a lot more, but I'll take my chance with Wilson there. But yeah, that was a tough little spot there. Again, being right in the middle of the draft, I haven't really drafted so much in the middle quite yet on these startups. I've either kind of been closer to the other end or like in the beginning. So I need to see kind of what player pool is going to be available come around here in this 3-4. The third and the fourth to see which way I'm going to go with this team. So usually this is where we see that running back run, but we had 7 quarterbacks go first in this one.
Yep.
And then obviously that teardrop right after kind of Harrison there made it literally put me in a weird spot. So I don't know if I like that 7 pick right there. That was a little tough. But yeah, like what would you guys have done in that position there? I mean, obviously you're a couple picks away. You went Hall.
Yes, I'll jump in here. Right, there is a very particular reason that I have been leaning towards and I'm flipping a coin between Brees and Gibbs there. I think I want kind of equal-ish exposures. It's not that I think they're a total coin flip for me. I want to have exposure across the board. I'll be the first person to say in my own personal rankings, I think Puka and Neighbors are ahead in my dynasty values there. I would prefer to have either of them.
Over
what
Wilson.
I notice, maybe not. I mean, no, Wilson's right in there,
Okay.
right? I think I have Harrison above all of them, believe it or not. But the reason I'm taking Brees, who I have below, in this case, Puka and Neighbors in the rankings, is there is such a small list of running backs that I actually like drafting where they go. I made a huge board of here's the top 60 running backs. I went deep, and I want to draft less than 10 of them. I think I had 5 running backs that I feel good about drafting. So my point behind going with kind of a hero RB build is I just don't want to get stuck later on where I feel like I have wide receivers I like in the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 18th round that I love. And I'm constantly thinking about, well, I kind of need a running back because I don't want to get in a situation where if I'm in a league where people just don't want to trade me a running back or they're going to make me overpay for it. If I just take Puka here and I get boxed out at a running back I don't like, am I just basically giving up a 2nd to 3rd round pick that I'm going to have to overpay to buy a running back as soon as I hit contending status? So I did a lot of testing, and I really liked the idea of if I can go at a reasonable, not reaching too crazy, if it just falls to me in a very reasonable range, I like taking the Brees Gibbs. Brees Gibbs Bijan, that's it. Anything past that, I'm off. But if I can get one of those 3 at an okay price, I like it, because then in rounds 3 through 8, I'm completely free to just take all the positional value when I want it. And then when I get into I don't have to force A-chain or something like that. I don't have to take the Kenneth. Who loves drafting Kenneth Walker? When you're running a very I've got quarterbacks and wide receivers and I need a running back and you have to take Kenneth Walker, it doesn't feel good. When you get later on, you're my first running back, Benson and Brooks went. So that's why. That's kind of my explanation for Hall.
And I take kind of a similar approach, but I think I look at it as kind of those ceiling performances, right? You look at those top running backs and you say, okay, Christian McCaffrey can win you a week, right? He's going to be the 20, 30 touch game guy. Bijan, we expect, is going to take that lead. Bye-bye Arthur Smith. Good luck, Pittsburgh. But in actuality, I think everyone is hoping to see from Bijan this year what we expected to see last year. I would put Brees in there. And look, Gibbs and Monty are in a timeshare of sorts, but you saw the second half of the year, the touches, especially the goal line touches, and, Gibbs started to ramp up his work a lot. So I think to your point, Kendall, I think once you miss out on those guys, there's probably not a huge difference in disparity between Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Pacheco, Rachaad White, like kind of that next tier down. For me, I'd rather, and you can see kind of what I'm doing with my build here, starting on a miniature 0 RB. I'm going for a higher ceiling play with some solidified wide receivers that I trust, that I know are going to really put a good amount of points into my team, probably on a weekly basis.
And I'll kind of add in that, like, for me, the next tier that I like drafting, I don't love it, but I do like it. I think Pacheco's nice. I like Cook. I like that range. I think Rachaad White's is still okay.
I think he's kind of like right under that a bit.
Right. I like Kincaid more than those picks. Right. So if I'm taking at least 2 quarterbacks within 6 rounds, I think 5 to 6, usually 5 is a nice spot to grab. 4 and 5, you can grab your high end tight ends. Right. By mid to late round 6, all the running backs that I enjoy drafting are pretty much gone. Achan's gone, Walker's gone, Kyron's gone, Cook's gone, Pacheco's gone often. And so I find I have to reach for a Brooks, which I love. I think Brooks is fantastic. But you get into a weird spot where if I don't go hero RB, essentially I don't like taking running backs until double-digit rounds, which is okay, but you don't really know the room you're in. So I think that's kind of another consideration. If you're looking to hit those middle round kind of typical dead zone backs that I think have some decent value this year, you can still get boxed out of that tier. And you just have to be very comfortable drafting much later running backs, which I'm okay with. I just prefer the ability of, what if there's insane value on the board and I still just have to take a running back? I like so many of the rookies because this deep 24 class has great rookie wide receivers that you can take into the double-digit rounds, and being forced to take like a Brian Robinson over even like a Javon Baker feels gross.
Yeah, that doesn't feel good.
And if I can avoid that, I'm going to try to as early as I can.
And I think really quickly, just the other thing, interesting, Kincaid tight end 1 off the board here over Laporta. I thought that was not a bad pick, obviously, but just, an interesting pick for me with Laporta tight end 1 season last year. But I think the one thing I was just going to kind of add, Kendall, is you look at a player like Keaton Mitchell last season coming on late, obviously had the ACL, but like he wasn't drafted. He was probably a guy that you picked up off the waiver wire. Now, Derrick Henry's in town, obviously in Baltimore. We expect him to get the goal line work. Lamar runs the ball. But you look at some of these late round dart throws on running back, and to your point about like missing out on some of these top guys, throw a guy like Keaton Mitchell, Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford's going to have some early season value. You probably don't want him on your dynasty team long term. But if you're looking for a couple of weeks because you did miss out on those top running backs, Nick Chubb's knee may not be ready to go week 1. Right. So a Jerome Ford could end up being a guy, even in a dynasty league, you still have to play for this season. Right. We always talk about playing dynasty in a 3-year window. But at the end of it all, you've got to have enough guys that are going to score points on a weekly basis. So I'm with you on some of these. Hey, if I miss out on the hero RB builds, or I don't get a guy that I'm, locked into in the 5th, 6th round, because I feel like I have a roster spot I have to fill with a running back, I'm okay adding a guy on a little bit later as well.
I sniped their roster, by the way. We saw this coming.
I was gonna say that was probably the one. I was like, I know he's not coming back to me because I know I've seen you take that 3rd quarterback right there in the 4th before, and we were trying to work out that trade. I think because I waited too long for my second, so I didn't want to do that again there this time. I honestly I was gonna take Taylor there actually, and just kind of go maybe with a little bit of an older build if he would have fell to me. But because that didn't happen, that's when I was kind of shaking my head there, Jake the Snake. So he's already sniped me on Harrison and Taylor. I got you guys kind of sniping me on both sides here, which isn't great. But yeah, so I had to go with my second quarterback, and then now I feel like I can kind of just let the rest of the draft kind of fall to me, and I think it gives me a little bit more flexibility. I don't feel like I'm behind now. Got my 2 wide receivers.
I like your start.
2
I definitely.
quarterbacks.
The next time you're on the clock, I want to hear your thoughts as you you have to be thinking. I know you like a balanced approach, and so you're looking at your roster. You're thinking, okay, when do I take my first RB? When do I take my first tight end?
Right.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on where your debate goes and where you ultimately kind of rest on. You guys see any interesting picks in the last? I think rounds 1 and 2 are fairly standard. You can kind of go over like this player versus that player, but I think 3 and 4 is where it gets like legitimately interesting. What do you guys see so far?
To me, could have taken this Jaden Daniels here, and was a little interesting. But maybe he plans on just maybe getting like another vet, kind of down there later. But I mean, obviously Daniels coming in and starting. But I just thought that was interesting over kind of some kind of little more proven talent, that's out there. But I mean, again, it was kind of just Purdy and Lawrence, so maybe just go get your guy at that point. What about you, Phil? You see any other ones that stand out to you there in the third?
Not really in the third. I did think that, like I mentioned earlier, Kincaid going ahead of Laporta. Like again, I said, not a bad pick, just an interesting take. Like I'd love to hear, Wicked Pompano's kind of thoughts on why Kincaid over Laporta. What I will say about Kincaid is, I think he and James Cook are the big winners in the Stephon Diggs trade. Right, like you don't have great faith in, and I think Khalil Shakir is going to be fine. Right, I think he's going to have some value this season. Curtis Samuel's going to have some value this season, but long term, the expectation is Keon Coleman develops into one of Josh Allen's top targets, if not his top target. But until that really happens and he has a bigger breakout, I think you're going to see a lot more passing work and volume go to Kincaid and go to Cook. So I don't hate the pick. And to be fair, on the other side of that coin, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Detroit.
Yeah. And wasn't there like something out there about, I think he only ran like 20% of his routes came like in line. Like other than that, he was basically split out as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could see why that could happen. Maybe why you'd want to go there, but I still think I have Laporta just a smidge ahead. And so it's fitting that they go back to back.
Kendall, are you kind of in that Laporta tight end 1 as well, and then sort of building out your ranks below that?
Actually, I am on that Laporta should be fighting to be tight end 3 at best. I am as far off of Laporta as I've seen anybody. Yeah, and it's not that I don't think he's good. Not at all. It's really not. Okay, I think Sam Laporta has the thinnest case to be tight end 1 overall that I've ever seen. And I think he is riding the wave of everyone loves Detroit and everybody on Detroit is getting this Detroit bump. But Laporta deserves it less than any of them, for sure. And I'm not taking away from his objective talent and what he's proven. But when you look, do you know how many fantasy points he scored last year?
And I think he was if my memory's right, he was at 187, which would have put him around wide receiver 15.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, like 14.7 per game or something like that.
Yep.
And I think I would project him for no more than that. In honesty, I don't think he gets a lot better, but that is not tight end 1 numbers.
And you are on the clock, by the way.
Yeah, I don't love the clock here too. This is so gross. I need a wide receiver, but it's just such a reach. It's just a ridiculous reach for someone here. So we're going to have to go into the old, I'm going to draft probably 10 wide receivers in a row at some point here, which is going to be super fun. If you guys want a wide receiver later, you're not getting one because I'm taking all of them.
Live trades happening tonight again.
Dude, this is pretty crazy. Wow. Okay, I'm between 2 guys here. Oh,
this
brutal.
is interesting. Yeah, this is an interesting pick for you.
I
thought that's where you were going to go. I thought that's where you were going to go.
Here's my thing. H-Chan's risky, right? But his upside is not just league winning, but we like Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome. Why do we like Jahmyr Gibbs? We like Jahmyr Gibbs because even at a 40 to 50% snap share, he's awesome. He gets the most valuable touches. And he also, he's the guy that can run it in from, that what they call the green zone, right? 10 to 20 yards, right? He can make that happen. He gets the passing down work. He gets all the valuable touches and lets Monty grind, and Monty still does great. I buy one of my philosophies is nobody is truly injury prone. I mean, sure, there's some stuff to that, but I think the market usually slightly overestimates injury proneness because everyone who says, oh, he's injury prone has probably lost a fantasy football season to someone getting injured.
Right.
It hurts
Sure,
so much.
sure.
And if we could have just taken the next best guy, we would have been fine. So there's a natural reaction in like the betting market to these injury prone players. And I think what I saw from and I'm higher on Tua, I'm higher on the offense. Their defense lost a lot. I think the Dolphins are going to have a dreadful defense, significantly worse.
I second that, actually.
I think HN's going to need to do well. I don't think he even got that much passing down work. From what I projected him to be, I think he can only go much farther up in terms of the receptions. And the fact that he can do the Kenneth Walker thing where he can just, on a few touches, he can take something to the house. I think his upside is if HN stays healthy, gets 5 targets a game, and is just extremely efficient, not as crazy as last year, but extremely good. I think he's starting to be in that like 3rd round probably where he won't be as good as the Gibbs Brees, but he's going to be Gibbs Brees light, and I could be getting him at a discount. He just has to stay healthy. If he gets injured, fine. But Andrews goes 2 picks later, and he just lost half his season last year to an injury, and he's not injury prone. I mean, it can just happen. So I think I'm a little higher than the market on HN. That being said, I'm going into the 6th round with 0 wide receivers, and I kind of want to pour some more wine. So oh boy.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what ends up happening. But like you said, I think we see a string of, Lad McConkeys and of such coming down the pike later.
100%.
Exactly.
I just want to add, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Add really quickly on HN. The efficiency numbers on HN is really what you're paying for, right? At the end of it all, Raheem Mostert's still there. Raheem Mostert had an 18 touchdown season last year, broke the Dolphins record. It was, I think, if my memory's right, he was RB1 in terms of touchdowns scored on the season. He was RB2 overall.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're talking obviously about an outlier season for a guy that just turned 33 last month.
Yeah.
So with the Jalen
talk
Warren,
about injury prone.
Right, with Raheem most hurt. I mean, come on, we got our Niners hats on. We know it's better than most.
And he was the only one out of that backfield that stayed healthy the entire time, right? And heading into the year, he was the most injury prone and not the one to get. And yet he was the only one that played every game.
But I think that is because HN is able to take some of that volume away from Mostert, which is going to let it's kind of what the Chiefs are trying to do with Kelsey right now. Right. They're not trying to win fantasy football games. They're trying to win Super Bowls. So at the end of the year, when they're in week 17, week 18, getting into those playoffs, you're going to see Kelsey's usage just ramp way up again. So HN to me is really interesting because of the volume isn't always there in terms of number of touches, but the efficiency metrics are off the charts. And that's what you're paying for, is a guy that could get 10 totes, 12 totes a game, but that could turn into 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's his ceiling. It's a nice problem to have, Kendall.
Absolutely. All right, he didn't do it to me there. Whew. I thought he was going to get me
Cook
again.
at the 6'6". That's absolutely fantastic.
I thought he was going to get me again. I was like, okay, I can deal with this if I can snag Cook here. This might be a sneaky little piece for me here. So I like kind of what I'm doing here so far. Got my 2 quarterbacks, 3 wide receivers set. Got my RB1. I kind of call this my villain RB build instead of like a hero RB. Kind of call it a villain RB. So yeah, what are you thinking here? Is it time to pull the trigger on a wide receiver, or
I have to?
3 wide receiver league, man.
I want to vomit. Oh my god!
There's a
guy that you might want to look at here, Rashee Rice. I think he's good at football. You should take him.
Oh, I heard about him before.
Until I'm spending like $10K a year in fantasy football, I'm just gonna vote with my wallet and say, just grow up. I don't love it. Let's go with the fun pick.
There you go.
It came a little sooner than I thought.
Yeah, it went around sooner than it should, is what you're trying to say.
Because I threw it out there, or what? Oh,
no,
man, I've been totally ignoring the chat. We haven't even gone to the chat once. But go ahead. What were you going to say? Finish up that thought, and we'll get into the chat.
I'm between like 3 guys there. I'm playing the total ADP game. If I need of the 3 guys in my queue for wide receiver, I need one of them to come back, and Lad is Lad fever. So honestly, if I didn't have the build I did, I think Brooks in the 6. Brooks is rising so far up my boards right now. I almost took Brooks there, and with I'm just going to trade my way out of this.
Right.
But for the sake of like the show, I don't want to do another like have to defend myself or my roster looks like I cannot possibly start
When
a
you
league
when you get
clean.
graded on Monday with me and Frank, you better
That's
watch
right.
out.
Look, grade me after my trades, and my team is just crushing everyone, right? But
Definitely.
at the same time, I'm trying to say that no one will trade with me because I do a buy low, sell high show, and I realized as soon as I put out those videos, no one in my leagues are going to trade with me ever again. They're just going to wait for me to talk about the guys I like and dislike on the show, and I will never get value again. So
It's what makes you better.
Yeah, but you're right though. It's hard to trade with your league mates, right? When you're saying like, oh, you should sell this guy, and like everyone hears you, and then you're saying, wait a minute, why am I getting a trade offer? Someone Phil just said to sell. Am I getting like you don't want that? So
Right.
I took Brooks. So I do want to. I was actually Rasta loved the pick with James Cook. I was targeting him myself. I didn't think he would get back to me, but obviously with Josh Allen, I would have loved to have the mini
Right.
stack and correlation. But one thing is obviously we're doing a dynasty startup draft here. Look, the ACL doesn't bother me for Brooks at this point. I think everybody's got something in their past. They've had a surgery, they've had some sort of an injury they're carrying. And at the end of the day, that's just kind of table stakes now. One thing I don't think a lot of people are thinking about with Jonathan Brooks is there's not anyone under contract next season in
Right.
Carolina, right? Miles Sanders is on a contract that is going in to be year 3 next year. And if my memory is right, the dead cap's not horrible. He clearly hasn't proven that he's worth that money. The drafting of Jonathan Brooks, obviously the Panthers are telling you with their actions that that's the direction they're going. But Chuba is also on his last year of a contract. So there's a very real possibility that Jonathan Brooks, of course, starts slow this season. I think that's what we all expect coming off the injury. But if he can show, the second half of this year that he's the guy, not only is it the potential for him to be the only running back under contract, but Dave Canales was responsible for the amount of usage that Rachaad White got in Tampa last year. That's the way Canales is talking about usage for Brooks. I think a 3-down role, Brooks's body isn't necessarily built that way, but we just talked about, Achane obviously being a smaller back and being really efficient. I think there's a really good ceiling for Brooks being the only guy under contract next season, being young and potentially being in a 3-down role where he could volume his way to an RB2 type season for your team, which would be a really, really good young player to have and build around, going into a rookie draft next season. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Had Mr. Jake the Snake here sniped Cook for me there, then Brooks was my next pick. So yeah, I mean, he wasn't making it past me to you there, Phil. Had he had that gone a little different. So, but yeah, I totally agree. In that draft earlier, I almost made a push for Brooks, in that rookie draft to fill out that team because I really needed to fill that kind of RB2 spot. I do have Mostert there as my RB2 now. So I thought Brooks would be like the perfect piece to kind of just come in, onto my team and just fill that role. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you said, the opportunity, the talent, the skill level. And again, just the opportunity that's there, especially in Dynasty for next year, more than anything.
Yeah.
Just a great building piece. And then to come around and pair him up with Benson, like your team is basically being set up to, again, you can find just some guys later here, vets that'll get you through this year. And you're going to be just boom, could potentially have 2 top 10, top 12, or even better running backs as soon as next year. So well done there in the 6-7.
Thank you. Yeah, there's good value. I mean, Kendall was talking about it earlier, right? And kind of one, obviously, Kendall and I have been doing this together for a while now. I know a little bit of how he thinks, but that value was there. So to have 2 young running backs as my centerpieces, even though they're probably not going to jump off the page numbers wise this year, you don't draft in Dynasty the rookies for what they are today. You draft them for what they're going to become. You draft them for what their ceiling could be in year 2, year 3, right? And I know, Kendall, you and I have talked a lot about Rome Odunze, right? We love Rome. We think he's going to be fantastic. Bear down. He's got his old bear claw thing going with Caleb. But I'll say this about Rome. He's probably a wide receiver 3 or potentially worse this season. Right. Because of the competition with DJ Moore and with Keenan Allen in town. It is going to be an injury that allows him to elevate. But, that's, again, you're drafting for the year 2 ceiling when Keenan Allen's no longer there and he has that rapport with a young quarterback in Caleb. And that's when I look at Brooks and Benson. Benson's going to sit behind James Conner. James Conner's not going away in Arizona. He's efficient. He scores touchdowns. Kyler Murray's fully healthy. He runs. So it's going to take a little while for Benson to develop. But, you know, when I see Give Me That Cheese just took Joe Mixon. I debated Joe Mixon because of the contract. Benson, to me, I think has a little bit higher ceiling because you look at Houston's wide receiver room, and even with Schultz being there at tight end, that's a lot of mouths to feed for CJ. How much volume is Mixon really going to get? Now, he may not have to run against stacked boxes because of the receivers, which is nice.
Right.
But there's a lot of fantasy players out there that have that Joe Mixon fatigue, and I am one of them.
Yeah, I wasn't big on him. Got on him a little bit there, and then, you know, kind of fell off last year.
Yep.
Myself. So, you know, he's an interesting piece. And yeah, just when I was on the clock there at the 7-7, looking at kind of those options, kind of felt like I was in a gross spot. I would have loved to have JSN Santos, or Kendall Santos. Nice pick there. Nice little snipe on me.
Yeah, I thought you wanted your guy.
Yeah, so, you know, I like Reed in this offense too. We'll see what can, you know, end up happening with him, just like how they kind of get him the ball, obviously attached to, you know, Jordan Love. We saw last year. So obviously I'm, you know, hoping that continues to grow, you know, there as my wide receiver 4. So feel pretty good about that. And I like that I have my 3 wide receivers and my additional 2 wide receivers filled through my flex now. So I can really kind of start, or actually, no, I need 1 more to fill. I forgot we're doing 2 flex. So I'm probably looking at maybe 1 more wide receiver here as we come across. I was really eyeing Coleman because I was thinking kind of maybe between Coleman and Reed, you know, there. But if Coleman falls to me here, it would be cool, but I don't like it as much because I have Cook, and I know he's not making it back because obviously, you know, Phil has Josh Allen, so I'm sure he'd like that stack. And then of course, you know, you Kendall, you need a wide receiver. So if anything, I'm just going to acquire an asset here and just go ahead and take Coleman. So I feel good.
How do you guys do this to me every time I have?
I knew it was coming, man. I was waiting for it. I was like, come on, make it back. I didn't think he'd make it back to me, but
I didn't want Coleman. I would have taken Coleman. I wanted Bo Nix I almost took Bo Nix at 7th. But I played the ADP game. That is
almost only two spots off. Not bad.
Gross.
If Jake the Saint didn't go 0 QB, it wouldn't have messed you up there.
I gotta tell you, I get bored with uncompetitive mocks when I hop into them where I'm not sniped enough, or I just walk away just feeling like I have the best draft every time. I like this is good. Like this is like prove your worth. I like this. This is nice.
For sure.
A little gross, but nice. Ooh.
Make your pick, and I'm finally gonna get to the chat and give the chat some love here. Since we've been in here, hopefully they're still hanging out with us. The role says he loves DK, but he's taking more any chance he can get. That's in reference to our thumbnail there. Who you picking, DJ Moore or DK? I don't think we've quite got there yet in that. Wait, are they off the board already? Oh yeah,
DK. Yeah.
DK. Oh, they literally went back to back. So look at that. DK went first. Moore went next. So I guess we nailed the thumbnail there. So good job, Classic Mike. Shout out to him playing softball. Hopefully his back's all right. As he's getting through it. So we got John in the house saying, hey guys, we got the roll again saying what up. Got Albert, our boy, always popping in every stream saying what's up. So hopefully you're still hanging out with us. Albert, how's it going? We got Firefleet in here saying what's up. The roll is drafting at 3. So, Ravery is the roll. I didn't know that was you, Ravery. So what's up? Oh, at the 9, he said. Oh, okay. So it's Give Me That Cheese. I was going to say, oh no, Dawson Chris. Oh, okay. So that's him. So welcome the roll. I like connecting people's sleeper and YouTube names. I wish they were just the same. It would make it, make it easier. He was saying no 3rd round reversal in this one. That was that. Okay. Oh, there you go. You were answering the chat for us there, Kendall. So appreciate you holding it down.
My first love is answering the chat.
I appreciate it.
I get so stuck with like my own picks in my own draft because I'm just a hyper competitive son of a gun, and I lean on the chat. I need them to like be like, hey, what would you have done here to like, break me out of that?
There
I
you
want to
go.
know. So chat, like seriously,
I appreciate that.
Like get it in there. Let's go.
For sure. Yeah. Drop any questions that you guys have in there. We'll definitely get to them now. We just, the draft got started off. It was kind of a little weird with that Bijan pick. And, we kind of just got a little out of the swing there. But yeah, they were saying when you guys said who's drafted Ken Walker. So we had the roll in here saying that he does. He loves drafting him. So there we go. The roll's asking though, how is his team looking at number 9? So Dawson Chris in here at the 9 spot with Caleb, Bijan, Olave, Odunze Young, Josh Jacobs, Penix, and Kittle. So what do you think there, Phil?
I like the start with Caleb and Bijan. Obviously, we took Bijan off the board from the 101. But look, if you can get Bijan in the, I'm not even going to say at the 1-2 turn, but a couple picks after. Look, the guy should be RB1. He has an RB1 ceiling overall. RB1 ceiling. I'm hoping to see. Here's what I'm hoping to see realistically from Bijan this season. I want to see some of those flashes and some of the opportunities that we expected last year that give me some of the CMC vibes. Right? We know Tyler Algier is still in the building. We know Pitts is there and Drake London. But to me, I think Bijan should be the foundation of Atlanta's offense. So I love that pick. Chris Olave to me and Rome Odunze. I love Rome. We've talked about him a little, but I will say this. I love Chris Olave. I'm not comfortable with Chris Olave as my wide receiver 1. I would really love him as my wide receiver 2. And I say that because the touchdown volume and the efficiency from Derek Carr just hasn't been there. I really don't see the offense changing that much in New Orleans. If my memory's right, they drafted an offensive tackle or a guard in the first round, so I think they should have better protection for Carr. But to me, Chris Olave is, again, we talked about it earlier a little bit with ceiling performances. He has to go up in touchdowns to get a wide receiver 1 season. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. I'll pause there before we kind of keep breaking down some of the team. But what are your thoughts there as far as like ceiling and floor for Olave relative to what he's been being drafted?
I'm raising my finger on this one, Kendall. I'm going to take it real quick, only because that was actually my decision. Obviously, I had the previous wide receiver, and I went Ayuk over Olave. Probably 9 times out of 10, I'm taking Olave in that spot. But I just kind of wanted to switch it up more than anything. That's kind of what took me so long on that pick when I made it. Obviously Olave is younger than Ayuk, which usually goes against everything, in my ageism that I have, and everything like that. But I just kind of wanted to make a different pick, coming out every night drafting just almost kind of the same team or the same pocket of guys isn't quite fun. So I also like to kind of see if I didn't pick that guy, where would he have went? So there's a little bit of that going on, as well too. Obviously it being a mock, you don't want to get too crazy with that kind of stuff, but I think they're, close enough in my opinion. But yeah, also the uncertainty with, Derek Carr and him staying healthy and all that over there. So it's just a interesting pick, but I love the talent, himself, he has the big play ability. We've seen it. And, so again, that's why, I think it could go, either way. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I definitely like him more as a wide receiver 2 versus a wide receiver 1.
Yeah. Kendall.
He's on the clock. I was trying to take it up to the point to give him that. Yeah. So I was like, I think I'm done. I don't think I could stretch that out any longer. But go ahead, Kendall.
No, I gotcha.
What you thinking on this pick? And then we'll get into the
for a second. Okay, so Javonte often, I don't love Javonte, but he often goes in the 7th or the 8th. He is a little bit of a value fall. I do not love Javonte Williams, but if I'm looking at the guys around him, he's a guy I think I'm probably okay. I'm going to take him here, but I'm going to take him here for one specific reason, and that is because I think if he has an above average season, this is a player I'm going to draft with the full intention to trade because I don't love his future, but I do think you always trade running backs mid-season because people need running backs to win titles, right? And I think I don't know what happens to Javonte next year. I do think he ends up somewhere else, probably in a committee in a weird situation. So he's not the ideal player that I like to draft on my dynasty teams. There are some wide receivers that I like here. I think I can get into the rookies a little bit. There's just better, but from a market standpoint, I do a lot of, I've done over 100 startups, I think, over the last 2 weeks. And Javonte has never fallen to me at the 9.6 before. So I know the market's down on him, but the market is typically a little down on running backs right now. You get into the season. I'm the guy that's like,
all gross right here. Sorry.
I did the same thing. I'm like, I went so far down the board. I'm hitting the
I didn't
rookies only
mean to
button.
do that. That's all right.
I mean, you can't. I'm a little higher on Swift in the community, I think. But anyway, so that's the point. That's my simple
Not
take
bad.
with Javonte. There is I'm taking him here because, sure, he is a young, decently talented running back. Should be healthier. I still don't love him long term. So don't get it twisted, guys. I'm not drafting him because I think it's a great pick. I think I'm drafting him because, from a market standpoint, his value will go up by week 10, almost assuredly, and I will look to flip him to a contender for profit in a way that, like, look at some of my previous picks. Okay, you're telling me that, like, I took JSN at 7.6. Okay, if a JSN owner in your league, right, needs a running back, you tell me you can't flip Javonte for JSN. You probably could, right? There, I'm throwing some random examples, but I think, could I package Javonte in a third to
Yeah,
move?
That's what
Javonte
I
was
was-
what, like the
I was-
104 in his rookie draft?
Yeah, I was gonna say you need another piece to get a JSN just from the value to make up the difference in value. But
And I'd be fine giving up a piece, a third, an extra pick kind of
Yeah.
later on.
Right.
I'm planning on taking a lot of rookies, so there's going to be the rookie. I like drafting a lot of rookies, but it's because I think you can capitalize on what they could be in the trade value.
yeah,
But I do plan on packaging Javonte to move up, to go grab a Pickens or a Dell, someone that I think the market is down on, that I like. I like their 3-year window better than their 1-year window, and I can go grab it. So that's defending my Javonte pick. But going back to your take, because we got a little bit on, we shouldn't spend 2 minutes talking about Javonte Williams. That's not worth anyone's time.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to anybody. All right, I apologize to the chat that you had.
It's good. I think it was a good take. We need that. We'll just clip it out and we'll just say that's our Javonte take
you
for the
can't
season.
Don't
always
pick him in the
can't
seventh,
talk
for
about
the
all the
love of
sexy
God,
guys
though.
all the time.
If
Yeah.
you think your pick is gross in the 7th, don't panic pick Javonte. If you're staring him down in the 8th, don't panic pick Javonte. If you see him in the 9th, it is maybe mildly okay, and that's the best I'm going to give you.
I agree.
But you guys were talking about Olave earlier in that kind of pick. Here. So I'm going to flip it back to you, Phil, because I think this is something that's worth considering from us redraft grinders, right? There's the big thing of there's people that I would feel comfortable as my wide receiver 1 and people that I wouldn't. But in a dynasty, start 10 with 3 wide receivers. I have started to become of the opinion that from an accumulation of assets standpoint, I have fallen off of the I need a prototypical great wide receiver 1, because I would rather have the average points per game across my top 3 wide receivers plus my next man up to be at a very, very high level versus having a prototypical 1 and then having kind of a pish posh other ways. In 2 wide receiver double flex, I changed my mind completely. But it's specifically in start 3 wide receivers, I think I've kind of fallen off of the you need a super alpha at the wide receiver 1. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there's only so many super alphas, right? And you and I've talked a lot about, and it's obviously the first time we've had a chance to really do this together on the show here, but we've talked a lot about, the tier rankings and how people do tier ranking systems. My tiers personally are a little bit different than what everyone else's are, because when I look at a tier, what I'm really looking at before I start ranking guys within that tier is who can give me an overall wide receiver 1 season, right? Who's the alpha of the alphas? At the end of the season, I don't see, and I mentioned this earlier, like I just don't see a ceiling outcome for Chris Olave where he's going to be a top 10 guy without getting an outlier touchdown season. To your point about, having the accumulation of assets, Chris Olave is 23 years old. I have Chris Olave on a couple of my teams, and I love it. I have Chris Olave as my wide receiver 2 on a team where I have Tyreek Hill as my wide receiver 1. So I feel really good about my 2-year window with Tyreek, knowing that I've got a guy that I can count on from a pretty good floor. I don't have a tight end. Rasta, you're not going to like what I'm about to do here.
Rasta hates tight ends. He wants
I
you to
hate
take
tight
all of
ends.
them.
I hate tight ends too, but I kind of have to do this right now.
Yeah. I literally had him in my next to my
I mean, it's something I don't want to take a 0, so I've got to get somebody in there.
I was trying to decide between him and Ingram, but I was like, Njoku's 2 years younger, so let me take a stab with him.
For sure. What I'll say about Olave, and then we can kind of move on because there's some other guys that I think have been interesting picks that I do want to kind of shift the conversation to. Again, you're so young with Chris Olave, and the contract that Derek Carr has says the Saints are financially committed for 2 more years. But I actually kind of like the Spencer Rattler draft pick You know, I know he's fallen way out of favor, but as a dart throw late, throw him on your guys. If you're not playing with a taxi squad, excuse me, if you're playing with a taxi squad and you have a spot, throw Spencer Rattler on just in case. If he doesn't work out, it's a taxi spot, doesn't cost you anything.
Mm-hmm.
But what if Jalen Milroe is the quarterback for the Saints in the next 2 years from Alabama? What if Shador Sanders winds up there? I mean, like, that's the stuff that we don't think about. And you start to talk about guys whose entire, you know, fantasy outlooks, especially dynasty outlooks, can change in the matter of a season. Drake London to the moon simply because of the signing of Kirk Cousins. Drake London's a great receiver. He's never had a wide receiver one season. We drafted him to be great. He was a top 3 or 4 pick in the rookie drafts coming out. He was wide receiver 1, I think, in that class. All of a sudden, Kirk Cousins comes in, bye-bye Desmond Ridder, and now it's, you know, you know, kind of, you're doing the mocks. Where's Drake London going right now? The 2-3 turn?
In startups, I am typically seeing London go late 3rd, early 4th.
Okay.
But he's starting to move up a little bit. He went really high in this particular draft. I think by the time it rolls around, he's going to be a mid-3rd pick.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, in this particular draft, he went before Neighbors, Gibbs, and then Purdy Lawrence. So if you move him behind those guys, he ends up mid to late 3rd, which is where I think he'll probably end up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the variance that you'll see as we get closer to redraft season and kind of some of the more, I won't say casual players because there's some very competitive redraft out there, but you know, folks that are not degenerates like we are doing a mock on, you know, in the middle of May here. There's always a little bit of variance where guys will rise a little bit, you know, maybe half a round higher than when they should be. So to me, I think Olave settles in really nicely right around that wide receiver 15 to 18, 19 range. And like I said, if he gets that outlier touchdown season, I think he has the potential. He certainly has the talent to crack a top 12. Oh, I'm on the clock, huh?
Yeah, you got 20 seconds.
I'm rising on this player. I know there's been some things here that we can talk about.
I know
as
who
soon
this
as
is for sure.
I'm sure you do.
London went 3-5 in our draft last week.
305.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but classic Mike. You know, we know he's big on him. He was wide receiver 11 off the board.
Yeah, it's about right.
Yeah, mid. And we know classic's a little higher on him. So
yeah,
trying to go see in our other one where he went.
So I know we've talked a little bit about this, but Dak Prescott's a free agent potentially next year. What if Dak Prescott goes to the Saints? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of quarterback name that elevates a Chris Olave out of the wide receiver 2 conversation into a wide receiver 1. And to be fair, probably actually supports that. Probably ends up finishing as a low end kind of back end wide receiver 1 with a Dak Prescott archetype of a quarterback there.
Nice. And then when we mocked on Monday the 6th, I got him actually in the 12 spot at the 4-1. Drake London on the 4-1.
Yeah.
So probably just gonna go ahead and go Evan Ingram here. Get the old tight end. Just get him in there. Figure something out. Yeah, that's the other guy. I was either gonna go Frank. I probably should have just went Frank. Let's get that.
Franklin's interesting, man. Like part of me, I have been doing a lot of. I feel like I fall into 1 to 2 draft categories where either I have somehow I have like 4 quarterbacks through 5 or 6, or I have to do this crazy build like I did the other day where I had no quarterbacks through I think 7 maybe. And it's like if you're doing the like I guess I'm going who falls, doing like because he's Jake's pairing him with Bo Nix. He's got Bo Nix in the 8th, a full snipe, throwing to. You know, his guy, Troy Franklin. I think it's kind of interesting. I think I'm still kind of off of Franklin for the most part. Just because I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's definitely a fantasy stud, but he's much more of a college scout. He was a fantastic high school player, ran into injuries, couldn't get to college, but would have easily been a very, very solid college player. Big Texas fan too. And his general take on like talent, as it translates to the fantasy football, was when you look at these teams that just play subpar competition, particularly at the wide receiver position, what happens is the defenses just aren't studs. And so undersized, not super strong, but quick players just end up having ridiculously more amounts of room to get open in the middle of the field than they ever will in the NFL, and they'll never be college open like what NFL open is. And it takes a long time for that to translate. And if you don't have a quarterback that can see over the line and just really make it happen, it can be very tough for that to translate. Where like Xavier Worthy, I think, is a guy that can overcome that, because even at his frame, Phil has kind of brought me back down to earth with Xavier Worthy.
Mhm.
I still think you can say he still showed up against NFL ready competition, whereas I don't think you can really say that about Troy Franklin. So that's what's kind of the tiebreaker for me on why, if it was between him or other people, like between Troy Franklin and Dontavian Wicks, I'm taking Dontavian Wicks. Right?
Interesting.
I like the talent and the opportunity there better. I like some other, if we're specifically talking about people that played against better competition, right? Like Roman Wilson, I don't think is fantastic, but he played against a lot better competition than Troy Franklin, and I think showed up better in those opportunities. And I think he will translate better to the NFL than Troy Franklin, although their, film might look a little flashier for Troy, right? That's kind of the idea there.
Nice.
What do
Jake the Snake got me again, man. Got me for Warren.
That's great. I
Jake's
was
a guy, I just
gonna
hate
say,
drafting even in the same hemisphere as him. I love him as a drafter. I want to be in a league with him, because I want to be in a league where even after he snipes me on like 20 picks, I have to find a way to outmaneuver him. He's a savvy player, dude. I love to see it. Love to see it.
Yeah, love Jake, man. Kind of pissed off at him here in this one, but
favorite late round tight end, by the way. Super undervalued, by the way. No love for Freiermuth. One of my favorite late round tight ends. I'll just put it this way.
I was big on him last year. Then he kind of
Canada does bad things to good people. Okay. And that whole offense suffered. You know who loves throwing to tight ends more than anybody I've ever seen in my entire life? This guy who used to throw to every tight. He used to throw to 4 tight ends a game in Seattle. There were guys that I was like, he's on the depth chart. Who the heck is this guy that's getting a touchdown? Russell Wilson loves himself some tight ends more than anybody I've ever seen.
For sure.
If Freiermuth ends up going to Bible study with Russell, it's over. He's over. 2 rounds, okay?
Like Stafford and Cup.
I want to go back. Yeah, the Breakfast Club, man. Eating bagels and watching film at 6 a.m. I want to go back for Jake's pick there on Jaylen Warren. Two things. Number one, I didn't think he'd get back to me. I was hoping and praying, but I thought, all right, it's not going to happen. But it's certainly someone I was targeting. I really feel Jaylen Warren's the RB1 in Pittsburgh. I don't know if it's really that strong of a take. I think a lot of people probably lean that way. Najee not getting his 5th-year option picked up may not mean that the Steelers don't bring him back, but I do think it signals that they are ready to move forward with Warren. Arthur Smith, you saw what he did in Atlanta last season in a kind of a 2 running back. Obviously, didn't see the ceiling we wanted for Bijan, but I think if you watch, sometimes to me, I always say this a lot, and I write about this a lot. Sometimes you have to throw the rankings out and just go with what your eyeballs tell you when you watch football. Jaylen Warren's the better player. Yeah. Jaylen Warren's the more explosive back. He's the better pass catcher. He's more fluid, right? Exactly. He passes the eye test. So to get Jaylen Warren in the 12th, first of all, is highway robbery. But to say that he's going to be there when you go, if you're not doing startup, drafts for real, you shouldn't be able to get him there. I expect him to go much higher. Love the pick, love the player. I think he's going to have a really good season. And I think he's a guy that, to be honest, Pittsburgh probably will sign and move forward with. I don't know if he's in a contract year this season or next, but it is coming up for him. And I would very safely say that Jaylen Warren is a Pittsburgh Steeler moving forward, whereas Najee, he could be in another team next year.
Was it you, Kendall, or someone else that said Najee to Dallas?
So I have been making moves in most of my dynasty leagues that are all based off of, if you look at the board of potential moves still available for Dallas to make, we're just in this dead zone where it hasn't happened, so no one thinks it will happen.
Right.
I'm telling you it's going to happen. I promise.
Okay, so it was you, right? That's where I did hear
I was
from,
on
right?
that.
Okay.
I think like between him, Khalil Herbert is probably one of my top picks. I think Khalil Herbert is almost
Khalil Herbert's definitely the more cowboy move.
Can I
That
can I
makes more
add
sense.
can I add a player for
Please do.
for Jerry's all-in Cowboys running back
Yeah,
room?
for sure, and then we'll get to the chat. But go ahead.
I would say Miles Sanders is a very real possibility to go to
That would be
Cowboys.
amazing.
I think that's a very real landing spot for him because
Ex-Eagle.
yep,
You thief.
ex-Eagle. He's
He checks
not.
all the boxes.
They don't want him in Carolina.
You
He's
take
gonna have to play
Jermaine
football
Burton.
somewhere. Oh, are you mad?
That
I
would
took
be
Jermaine Burton?
amazing. That
How
would
you
be
guys both
freaking
reach?
amazing.
First Ravery reaches, and then you reach. You guys, oh, I hate both of you so much right now.
Yeah, I picked up
There is nothing worse in fantasy football, by the way, than being like, I'm gonna reach for my guy, and then the two guys before you were like, but I'm gonna reach farther.
they just
That's
got that. They
cold.
outreached you that 6'7" wingspan.
contested catch specialist, man. 50-50
Right.
balls. Go get him.
Man,
You didn't see the highlights of Joey B throwing 60-yard dimes to Jermaine Burton in practice with no helmets and no pads on? Come on, get excited.
oh man, get all over it, right? Oh man, yeah, I got Malachi Corley in one of my rookie. I think it was one where I only had like one pick, and I was able to grab him, so I felt pretty good about that. Well done. What do I
I don't
want
even
to
know what we
do
were
here?
talking about, by the way. You guys just shattered so much of me with those.
We're talking about who could wind up playing for the Cowboys here.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Miles Sanders going to
I think
Dallas.
there's a long list of names that will probably, as the season goes on, keep growing. Because if you're telling me that their plan is to have Zeke, I have some questions. Well, I have a lot of questions for Jerry, but
right.
I'll be the first person to say, like, if you have Rico Dowdle, you sell that man. You sell that man before he ends up like Deuce Vaughn. All right, because that's where he's headed in 2 weeks.
So let me ask you that then. What would you, if you are someone who is trying to sell, what would you accept as a trade for Dowdle?
Superflex, right?
Sure. I mean, yeah. Let's do
the reason
Superflex.
I say Superflex is I think third round picks are kind of a litmus test, which third round this year in 04 was fantastic. It's not great every year, but third rounders in 1 QB are barely viable. They're waiver fodder, where it's very different in Superflex, in my opinion. I would try to do what I'm looking for is I want a second. I'll give you back a third in Dowdle.
You want a second?
Probably feels low, right? If I'm trading away Dowdle, you're not getting a second straight up, right? If I'm gonna offer, give me a second, I'll give you Dowdle and a fourth. Counter probably finish with a third, because I think where Dowdle ends up is basically dust. I think that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, I would never accept any offer for Dowdle. That's just where I'm at.
No?
Yeah, I have 0 to -1 interest in Dowdle.
Oh, I thought you were coming from like you would hold. You're a for sure hold.
Oh no. Like I would not accept anything, not for him, but like to receive him, I guess you would say. So maybe I heard the question wrong as I was trying to queue up my next pick. Yeah. But
I think I'm with you.
Was trying to sell me Dowdle,
I wouldn't give anything for him. So
interest.
If I could get I will do a 2-3 swap with Dowdle. So I'll give you Dowdle and a third for a second, just to tier up for the two pieces. I would be thrilled with that.
I wonder if you could get that trade done. And I mean that saying it from the lens of the uncertainty of Dallas's running back room, the lack of production from a sample size that we've seen. Rasta, I probably am more on your side of this question of like, I just don't want Dowdle on my team.
Yeah.
I don't really see, my thought is this: at what point during the season am I realistically going to play him? That's not an injury or a bye week.
Right.
Like that's how I look at it, is okay. Like, this is break glass in case of emergency situation. Whereas I would try and target, I know these are higher value players I'm about to mention, but they have some situations you don't love. I would go look at a Zach Moss. Is Zach Moss really going to be the guy for the next 3 years in Cincinnati, or is he a 1-year rental? I don't know the answer to that question.
Right.
Is Zamir White going to be the guy in Vegas for 3 years, or is he a 1-year rental? I don't know the answer to that question. So like that, to me, there's some question marks about those backfields that what I saw from Zamir White, what I saw from Zach Moss, even though I don't love their long-term outlook from a dynasty perspective, you got to have some guys that are going to play and they're going to play this season and get you some points. Like nobody, who took him? I wanted to talk about this earlier. Kuda took Derrick Henry in the 6th round. Derrick Henry's going to score some touchdowns this season.
Oh, yeah.
Derrick Henry's old. You don't want him as the centerpiece of your team, but look at Kuda's group. He's got Kyron Williams there. He's got Zach Moss and Gus Edwards. He's going to probably be drafting a running back in next year's rookie draft if this was his real team, because he's got some good quarterbacks and some young receivers
Right.
up top. But at some point, like, Derrick Henry's still valuable. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's how I kind of look at it, is like, all right, if I don't get a 2 or 3 year window, what am I getting for this season? And I don't see the path for Dowdle this season.
Yep.
I'm just kind of looking over this here. I think it's hilarious how, Phil, you and I, like, our teams are almost like constructed exactly the same through round 6. And then that's where we just went a little bit different. And then we kind of just got back on board and finished off basically almost the same way. Just again, opposite. I have my running backs down here, and then you have a couple more wide receivers down there.
Well, so I'll tell you a little bit of my thought process. I didn't love Drake May in the 4th round. It's, to be honest, it wasn't the direction I really wanted to go. I was a little nervous having Barkley and AJ Brown on the same team. I probably would have I should have just taken Barkley and then tried to flip him, for that trade asset. But for the purposes of the exercise and Superflex, Drake May has some things we like. The coverage pretty barren in New England right now. They're going to need to draft well for him to really break out. But yeah, I think, your construction and my construction are there's a lot of mirroring that's going on there. And you took Keon Coleman from me. I really would like you to trade him to me, please.
And that's probably why because I literally seen that, and I'm like, I'll easily be able to negotiate something there. So absolutely. And again, that's why it's just, you just start acquiring assets. You're not looking at it like, oh, this is going to be the team I'm ending the year with. You're just trying to accumulate assets at that point. So I went a little wacky with that Swift pick, but I felt like I kind of recovered after that. Feel pretty good about my team. The only thing I feel a little weird about was, kind of that Ayuk over Olave pick. I felt like I was in a weird little spot. But for the most part, and then again, here in the 9th, that Swift pick, obviously with it autoing, it had me a little conundrum. I felt like I reached a little bit on Corum, but I felt like I needed to catch up at running back there, and then still felt comfortable with Ingram. And then I felt like Zach Charbonnet falling to me there at the 12 felt like a fall. Although I wanted, Warren, like we talked about. So anyway, we're not supposed to be breaking down my team, but I guess we will, because we won't do it on Monday. So I guess there's my little 2 cents.
I'd love to do something real quick, like 30 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rasta, what's your what do you think is your worst pick? And like real quick, what would you change it to? Like now, knowing now what you didn't know then, or something like that. And what is your favorite pick and why it's your favorite pick? Lightning round.
So I think I kind of said the first one already. I think that Ayuk and Olave, like I said, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably taking Olave there. So it just kind of makes me feel a little weird, making that, that pick there. So I would say that'd be one that I would want to change. And then my favorite pick, I think, is my James Cook pick here in the 6th. Having got my 3 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks, and then still getting James Cook, again, in a full PPR league, to get that type of piece that late. To me, that's my favorite pick there. And I'm pretty high on Cook this year, not, super crazy or anything. But yeah, I just felt like it was I feel comfortable with him being my RB1 on this team, knowing I could still make a move for an older vet or something if I needed to later. But what about you? I like that question. Then we'll get to these ones in the chat. So yeah, what's your favorite pick? And if you could do another one over again, which one would it be?
Sure. Okay. Favorite pick. It's really a tie. I think I have 2 ridiculous values at quarterback. I think Richardson is going to leap Hurts, but I took him at the 106. I get him at the 108, 109. So I can't say it's my favorite, because when I'm drafting at the 108, 109, I still get him. So I had to reach quite a bit. He has limited room to improve, but Purdy at the 6. Weapons, coaching staff, what he showed in the playoffs. Purdy at the 3-6 versus Love at the 2-2. I think they are back to back in situation. They're a round and a half apart almost. I think is ridiculous. I think he has question marks because unprovenness. I think one more solid season. He was in the MVP conversation. He fell off, but he was in the conversation. If he shows one more season where he doesn't have a massive flaw in his game, he's rising a full round minimum. And I think that's more likely than not. So I'm a big riser on Purdy. Least favorite pick is probably Lad at the 6-7 just because it felt gross.
Yeah.
Sometime the Go Hero RB in the draft room says, yeah, you're going to regret that, bud. And I did. I definitely did. There are some draft rooms where I go Hero RB and I feel amazing about it. I really do. When RBs go a little hotter and heavier and I get value round after round, not crazy value, but just like reasonable half rounds, several rounds in a row. That didn't happen. So having to reach for Lad felt kind of gross, to be honest with you. So I feel like I'm like a at least half a round worse in 6, 7, and 8. I hate that I had to do what I had to do, but I think construction wise I made up for it, but that felt gross.
Very cool. Go ahead, Phil.
The pick I don't love is the Drake May pick at the 409. Look, I think the ceiling play for Drake May is that I'm pretty high on him if he hits. And that's a silly thing to say because everyone's high on players if they hit. But what I mean by that is there are some people who believe Drake May has some Josh Allen tendencies. He's got the big body. He's got the frame. He's got a strong arm. And you have to remember this. Josh Allen was awful his rookie season. He was awful his sophomore season. Josh Allen was not the Josh Allen that you wanted on your team or have now those first 2.5 years in the league. It took him a while to kind of develop. There was people, of course, that were saying like, man, the Bills blew this pick. Like this is going to set them back. And now they have, arguably the top dual threat quarterback, certainly a top 3 guy in the game. Yeah. So that's the ceiling case for Drake May. The floor is that he could be Trey Lance. You know what I mean? Like the cupboard's pretty barren in New England. You don't know what Jalen Polk's going to be. You know what the guys that are in that wide receiver room right now aren't, right? We've all seen that. So
I like Demario Douglas a little bit.
Okay, a little bit. Okay, a little bit.
Smidge. I'll take him like in round 17, 18 in underdog best ball.
Yeah. I'm just not. Honestly, I should have taken Barkley if I could go back in hindsight and do it. Don't worry about the double eagle positional players there, and either keep Barkley and figure out what to do with him or sell him.
He almost made it back to you, so it wasn't that bad. So
he did.
I like the chance.
I was really, really targeting him. I'm okay with T. Higgins. The pick I like the best in my team is Trey Benson at the 704.
Yeah.
And I say that because I actually have in my personal rankings, I have Benson as the rookie RB1 in this class. I'm also really rising. It's painful to say as a Niners fan, but I'm rising on what Arizona's doing from an offensive perspective. They got youth with Trey McBride. You love Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Michael Wilson has to show something this year to really be considered next year, but he is going to be relevant this season. Kyler's fully healthy coming off the ACL. James Conner is going to be there this year, but you could be looking at a Trey Benson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. That's your core going into McBride's sophomore season with Kyler still under contract, and potentially they bring in another wide receiver and or hit free agency, and maybe they grab a T. Higgins in free agency from the Bengals. Right. If he doesn't get re-signed, there's some guys that are going to be free agents next year that could be really good additions. So I think the Cardinals going to have a high scoring offense. And I think by year 2, when Marv is really fully developed with a Benson in year 2 as well, it could be a really good pick for me. Kind of middle of the draft here. Good value.
Yeah, I like that one as well. So very nice. So I just want to get into a couple of the ones we had behind here in the chat. And then we'll start to kind of wrap it up here. We had the rule saying in an 8-man league, no extra points. Kerry saw someone take James Cook at the 208 in a Superflex league. So, yeah, that's a little interesting there. We have classic 2132 saying, how terrible is my draft at the 1 spot? He said he's not sure what to do with his hands. What do you think about the 101 team here? And just like a quick thing, because of course, classic 2132, check in with us on Monday. We're going to actually do a full grade breakdown on these teams and go into a little more depth, grade them, rank them, and let you know truly what we think. But just real quickly, since you guys won't be there, you want to do just maybe kind of like maybe one of his favorite picks and If you could do one thing different, kind of something he got right and something he got wrong.
Go ahead, Kendall. Go ahead, Kendall. Yeah, go ahead.
I got it. Okay.
Oh, my bad. I should have threw it to somebody. That's my fault as a host. I apologize.
We're just too polite. We'd hug it out, right?
Yeah, we're all like, you guys were all quiet.
We're
Me and Classic Mike were like, we both try to rush to answer it. So you guys are nice, man. Go ahead, Kendall.
Not terrible. Okay. I think the ETN pick is a little bit of a mistake. I would not go with a running back that could be aging before you can take a guy like Gibbs. Gibbs, he gives you way more flexibility. If you want to take a running back, take the guy 3 years younger. It gives you flexibility for the next 3 years. I hate saying it's a mistake, but it's definitely a mistake. Even if you think ETN's better for a while, it gives you less flexibility. So earlier, the younger you can go earlier, or the more open you can keep yourself based on how the draft falls, I think is just objective better draft strategy. We're just doing 14 rounds because this is a startup we have to make for YouTube, right? But the idea is startups are still going 20 plus rounds, right? So you have a lot of rounds to pivot. You want to stay open as much as possible in the early if you're going to draft at an advanced level. So definitely take Gibbs over ETN there, give you more space and more time. I love what you did the next couple rounds. Even if Worthy is maybe a reach at the 5-1, it might not be if he hits, and he's still young. He still keeps you open. Levis is fine if you're going to have one quarterback through 5 rounds. Take someone who at least has some upside. I'm fine with that. You at least kept it young later on. Your next 3 picks definitely kind of make up for it a little bit. You have kind of a roster that can go either way. I think by halfway through your season, you're going to have to kind of make a call on where your team is at. And I think you're going to have to fix it through the trade market, not because it's broken, but because you have to pick. You're between a compete now team if things hit, and if they don't hit, you could be, I don't want to say in trouble, but you could be passing up on value if you don't make active trades in the second half of your season if you know you're not going to win, right? Trade away Cooper, trade away Jones to a contender, trade away Cooper to a contender.
Try to get Rodgers out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can look to pick up somebody cheap or trade for just draft capital, right? You trade for a quarterback, you don't know who it's going to be yet, but get draft capital. If you are smashing, right, maybe you can trade up for a win now situation. I think, in all honesty, your team has enough young pieces where I would probably do a mini rebuild if it's not happening and trade out. But you have enough good young pieces to where even if you've made a few mistakes, I think you're being a little too harsh on yourself. I think the ETN pick is probably your biggest mistake, but the rest of your draft is quite nice.
What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I agree in principle. Looking at London, Flowers, Worthy, you've got youth, you've got some upside there with the receiving core that you have. Obviously, Cooper is an expiring asset, so is Tyler Lockett there at the end of the draft. Kendall knows where I'm going with this. He and I've talked about this a lot. He knows exactly what I'm going to say. I wouldn't have taken Xavier Worthy at the turn there, and it's not a bad pick. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but I think that the Xavier Worthy upside case is he's at his, I won't say he's at his ceiling now because we haven't seen him play a down of NFL football, but I think we have blown a little bit out of proportion what he is as a receiver because of the combine, because of the landing spot with Mahomes. And I give you this take. What if the Steelers had taken Xavier Worthy? How do you feel about him at that point? Because they need a receiver with George Pickens. You don't love the quarterback room in Pittsburgh, right? So if he doesn't have Mahomes, at the end of the day, the kid's still 165 pounds. Is he going to have boom weeks? 100%. Am I targeting Xavier Worthy in just about every best ball draft that I have? 100%. Because I think when he hits,
he'll put some weight on. Slow down a smidge.
He's not going to put on 20 pounds. If he puts on 20 pounds, I'll be
not 20.
Massively.
No.
So that's
maybe 5.
When I look at the exactly. Yeah. Look at the ones.
H can put on some weight, right? He added like 5 pounds, right? If he can do it, anybody can.
5'11" sounds way.
When I look at
5'11",
this board,
170 sounds better.
In the 5th round, I would have probably taken Barkley over Worthy. I would have probably taken Higgins. I like Tank Dell. I actually I'll be honest, I was between Tank Dell and T. Higgins myself when I was on the clock there because of the youth, because of Stroud and the offense there in Houston. I am personally a little bit lower on Worthy. Some people are ageists, some people are sizeists. I'm a weightist. I need you to have a little bit of weight before I feel
That's an even better one.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to
a
add that to
weightist.
my ists.
Yeah, the ist. Yeah, exactly. That's my.
You need to do a
descriptive
video
term.
on that, by the way.
That'd be awesome.
My above weight and below weight guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the core. I think it's a good group. I love Kyle Pitts in the 7th. Look, if Pitts develops into what we've all expected him to be, you've got a generational tight end that you don't have to replace for a very long time. So that's awesome. But yeah, when I look at the team, I look at that worthy pick there at the 501, and I say, okay, I would love it if it was the 6th. If he gets it at the end of the 6th round, I'd feel better. That's where I feel better.
Yeah. I think a quick question to ask yourself is Worthy and Levis versus your favorite of JJ Bryce and then JSN or Reed, right? Sub Worthy with JSN or Reed, sub Levis with McCarthy or Young. I think it's close, but I think the idea is like JJ and Bryce are walking into longer runways, more established. I think when you look at the trade market, they're more valuable, and you want a more stable situation at quarterback. You'd rather take slightly different chances. Worthy's prospect profile versus even JSN, who went later, close, right? I'm not saying JSN is going to be better than Worthy, but what I'm saying is when you look at, if you do enough of these, this is why we mock, right? What I think your biggest thing here, my man here, is look at the if thans, look at what you could have potentially done if you had switched it up, and then just ask yourself, hey, based on what happens typically in the 7th round and what I could have gotten, or are you convicted and Worthy? If you're super convicted and Worthy, go get your guy, right? And I think being able to pivot to take quarterback in 6 makes some sense. But I think, I think what Phil's saying is Worthy is definitely a risk when you could take a quarterback that has 3 to 4 years of, they're going to have the job for a long time regardless. Levis fell, right? So he is a significantly riskier asset at a more important position, right? So if you can de-risk in a different way, I think that allows you more options and freedom to do better things with your roster. I think it's something that just comes with a little bit of practice, right? So I wouldn't call it a mistake, but I would call it something that personally I would try to avoid when you can, in an option there where you could. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So you'll have to tune in on Monday to get my take. So we'll break it down, we'll grade it, we'll go through it. I'll let you know my thoughts, myself and Frank. We'll let you know where it kind of ranks in there. So make sure you tune in on Monday, 9 p.m. Pacific, to get our grades of this entire mock here. We'll break it all the way down. I think you were asking Logan about some more information about this question here. He's in a 10-man Superflex league. He has 3 picks in the 2nd round. Who or what strategy should I go with? Kind of hard to answer this question because we could probably spend 30 minutes on this question just by itself with all the scenarios. So Logan, I'd ask you to go into the description. You'll see the link where it says join our sleeper channel there. Join that channel. Basically, you'll see a bunch of threads there. Create a new post. Let us know, hey, this is Logan, from the YouTube stream tonight. Drop that team in that chat. Take screenshots. And myself, Phil, Kendall, we'll all get in there. And we'll definitely let you know and talk that thing out in a little more detail versus here on the live stream for everyone else. So we definitely want to help you with that. That's what we do. We nerd out on this stuff. So that's exactly what that channel and that space is for, to get in those more detailed conversations like that. I mean, you can send screenshots of the other team, trades, anything like that. We'll dissect an entire league for you if you really want, especially, coming in the weekend, we don't have anything else to do. So literally send it over. That's what we geek out on. So just for the sake of time, I think some others stuff was just kind of more just kind of context in here. What do you say? He said, I come on our show. Sometimes he has foreign, some on YouTube, some of a smaller channel. Hit me up. We can definitely talk about that. Class said, do we like Tajay Spears? Give me your 15-second take on Tajay Spears. Kendall, go.
Tajay Spears. Okay. I don't love the injury history, the arthritic knee, but I do think that he established himself as the pass catcher in an offense that needs a pass catching role. I think he is very similar to what I see in Jalen Warren, but maybe a tad bit younger. He is explosive because he is fresh all the time. He has a good pass catching role, and he's in an offense that is ascending. I will never love Tajay Spears. I'm not going to overpay for him, but I think the market swung way low when Pollard got traded to him with the 3-year, was a $26 or $27 million contract. So you missed your window to like sell high for like a late first for Tajay. I look at Tajay Spears like he is a really, really safe, solid kind of floor play as like a low end RB2 for your roster. I don't love him. I think I am slightly higher than where the market is because the market left him for dead after Pollard went. But let's keep our expectations very reasonable. He does not have reasonable upside. He has just great floor.
Perfect. Phil? I'll give you 20 seconds.
20 seconds because Kendall took 45.
Yeah. We were counting.
Tajay Spears, quite simply, Kendall hit it. No ACL, probably a one contract player in Tennessee. But the caveat to that is very simple. You need guys like that. I think he's going to be a flex play for you. I think if you have an injury, he could possibly fill in as your RB2. I don't see him being a second contract guy. I'm not reaching for him. If I'm in an auction, I'm not overpaying for him. I'm happy to be wrong and let someone else take him. But if you need a guy for this season and next, I think he can give you some usable weeks.
Very nice. Well said. I'm basically kind of in there with you guys. I like his value where you can get him now, especially because of that Pollard signing. I think when he had the backfield kind of to himself, his value was a little high when we were getting some of those original mocks, mocking, as soon as Derrick Henry was traded. It was kind of a little crazy at that point. But yeah, I like him, especially, in your full PPR leagues. I like him, a lot more because of that receiving upside. And I think he'll definitely have a role there. We saw it even with Derrick Henry. He was even getting him off the field on rushing downs. Against Derrick Henry, who we feel is probably one of the best, pure runners out there. So that's a coaching staff that is literally giving him 30 carries a game. So for them to give him that, I think speaks volumes of what they think about him. And then again, to just go out and get someone like Pollard. And again, I think they can really complement each other very well. And it's the new kind of, the new age back. So hopefully I didn't take 45 seconds like Kendall did. I'm just messing with you, Kendall.
I'd respond, but I'd be taking more time,
No, dude, you're good. I'll give you 3 minutes. I don't care. Like I said, I do 4-hour shows.
I took 3 minutes on Javonte. You should fire me for that.
I was gonna say, if anything, I'll give you more time here on Tajay. Yeah, the Javonte was a little long. No, always love your insights, man. For real. Like we know, this is why we do this here. We want to give you guys, our full takes. We're not just going to give you a quick little cookie cutter thing. We really like to know or let you guys know what we're thinking about, where we're coming from. And it's not just some random hot take we're just coming up with to answer your question. That's how we truly feel about these guys. And again, these are the conversations we just are degenerates and like to have. I wouldn't want to be doing almost anything else. Nope. We'll probably sit here for like another half hour and talk about football before we even get up here after we end the stream.
If not, just seriously, throw it. I check that sleeper channel all the time. I would love to see some more questions in there. I promise you. I got stuff to do, but I don't have more important stuff than answering your questions. There is nothing I would rather do. If I'm going to, there's the decision tree where it's like, should I go throw out a couple of trades and just see what I can, make happen, do a little extra work, see what I can do to gain some value, or just talk with the community about some things and make some things happen for you guys. I can tell you, I talk to Phil about this all the time. We get so much more joy. This is Christmas for us. If we can help you make some things happen in your leagues because we spend all day thinking about this, and we can help elevate a couple of teams for you, or even if you just need the alternate take, you need the contrarian take to what you're thinking to help round your decision-making process, let us help. We love that. We honestly get a kick for it. We all came up in communities that helped us with that. And it's how we got here today. I'm sure I'm not speaking, lies for Rost and Phil here. So please do throw everything in there. We do check it. And we're gonna answer. We're gonna get into some awesome conversations. So please,
Yeah.
if you have
It's not
questions
some
that we can't
PR
get to, throw it in there.
person or someone answering my DMs. Like when it's in there, it's at Rastafarian. You'll see it. I'm in there. We're all in there. You know, Santos is in there. You got P Ruskin here. So that's us. That's the real us answering those questions for you. And then of course a bunch of other folks in the community that will also give you their input. A very knowledgeable group community that we got going on there. So again, hit that link in the description to join the Get Right Fantasy Network private sleeper app. Or private sleeper channel inside the sleeper app, so you don't even have to download anything different if you're already on sleeper. So the rule here says, what's my best and worst value? You're gonna have to tune in on Monday, my guy. We're gonna break down your whole team, let you know exactly where it is. So we'll be back here again Monday night. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're already subscribed. Turn those notifications on so you know when we're dropping those videos and when we go live, so that you can get your grades and come back and check it out. So the role said, how do I go about contacting you? It's all in the description, my guy. You know, I'm definitely not a guy that doesn't want to be getting a hold of. So I'm like a public entity out there. So just get in the description. You'll see my ads on Twitter, Sleeper. Everything shy of posting my actual cell phone number in the description. It's all in there. So
well, and I was gonna say, add us on Sleeper, myself and Kendall, right? Like
yeah.
at P Ruskin, hit up the Extra Point FFB, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, because Kendall and I are gonna start rolling out content of our own under Get Right Fantasy Network's platform here pretty soon. So if you're looking to get into a guest segment, get a team breakdown that you don't have time to get answered somewhere else, like we'd love to talk about it with you as well.
For sure. So there we go. So before we cleaned up, of course, our shows. I didn't even. That's why they're asking, because I forgot to put the banner up. I called it in the pre-show that I was going to forget. That's what happens when Classic Mike's not here and you're running the whole thing, by yourself. I got two guests on here, so but it's all good. So what was I even going to say there? So this whole thing is possible because of our boys over at Underdog Fantasy.com. So make sure you guys go download the app from your app store or visit underdogfantasy.com on your browser. It's basically a best ball platform, no season long commitment, no waivers, no trades. Basically go in, draft your teams, and you have a chance to win, millions of dollars. They have their best ball manias, their puppies, other things like that. They also have their pick'ems. So when you go there, make sure you use that promo code GetRight when you sign up, because when you make your first deposit, they will match it 50% up to $250 in bonus cash. So you deposit $10, you'll get $5 in bonus cash, or you can deposit $500 and get a total of $250 additional dollars in bonus cash. So make sure you guys go there now. Of course, please play responsibly. Again, if you're interested in reaching out, maybe doing some content creator here with the channel, like my friends here that we connected with and are coming on board with us. We are looking to grow the network. So again, hit me up. Reach out. We could set up a meeting. We can talk and see what the ideas are. Looking for writers, content creators, whatever it is you want to contribute to the fantasy industry. Just let me know. Other than that, fellas, I want to give you guys this moment here. Kendall, I'll throw it to you here first. Tell the people again where they can find you, what type of content you're going to have coming out here, and there you go.
All right, so I'm a little bit new to YouTube. Definitely not new to fantasy football though. So we're stepping on it in traffic. We're going to make it happen. We're at the Fantasy Football Tavern. Cold beer. I say cold beers, but I'm up for all types of classy drinks over here. We're having a good time, right? I just want to hang out with my bros at our little virtual bar, having a good time. The Fantasy Football Tavern's where you can find me on YouTube. What I mainly focus on is I am a draft strategy expert. Whether you like my takes on player values or your own player values, there is a right way to solve the Rubik's Cube that is a fantasy board. Okay. And that's what we're going to focus on my channel. So we're going to do a lot of mock drafts. We're going to do some underdog best ball drafts. We're going to try to take down the best ball, all the best tournaments on underdog. We love to see there. I can't afford to max out Best Ball Mania, but we're going to do a lot of entries in the puppy and things of that nature. And we're going to figure out how we can maximize ADP risers and fallers, where we think the market is going to rise, where we think we're going to fall, so we can get our entries in now, get ahead of the market. So if you want to get some practice in for Dynasty startups before you do, great place to check it out. If you want to do some free practice, watch what I do, hear my takes on underdog best ball drafts before you throw your money in there. Great place to check it out as well. And then I will be dabbling in some market risers and fallers. I tend to play Dynasty in terms of a stock market take, where we're going to try to take advantage of the market over and under reactions and have some value options for trades in your Dynasty league. So check us out, the Fantasy Football Tavern.
There it is. Well done. So we'll switch it over here to Phil. Tell the people where they can find you, what you got going on here that you're bringing to the channel.
Yeah, so you can find me at the Extra Point FFB on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram at _extra point. Excuse me, I think might be an underscore. Oh yeah, it's the _extra point _FFB. Thank you for that, Instagram. But it's all good. Similar to Kendall, I'm doing almost all Dynasty content. I love to break down trades. I love to be talking about long-term values. What are ceilings? What are floors? Should I be looking to move on from player X, and what can I expect in a return? I'm also going to go the extra point, obviously named for that small little bit that we need every single time, a touchdown to score. We've got to get out there and kick the extra point. Those points do make a difference in the end. So I'm going to be going through some metrics, talking about different ways that we can use an analytical approach to players' values, how that relates, because at the end of the day, we want to help you win your league. We want to help you. We want to help you dominate your drafts, but we really want to make sure that you're set up with the tools for success long-term. I play Dynasty in a 3-year window. So ultimately, I'm looking for players that can really give me some ceiling performances in that 3-year window, but you've got to look a little bit further out as well. So I think we're really looking at a good metric, analyst's idea of where can I find some value that maybe some folks are missing relative to the market.
Absolutely. There it is. And again, you can catch them, of course, on their channels, which go down in the description. Like I said, everything's in there except my phone number. Find the links to these guys. Go hit that subscribe button. Support our Get Right Fantasy Network affiliate channels here. Our shows that'll be added here to the network as we continue to grow. So again, support them. Support us here. Hit that like and subscribe button for us. So very excited to have you guys on board, man. It's going to be a lot of fun here this offseason and then heading into the season. It's going to be a fun journey, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So I think other than that, we'll kind of wrap this thing up here, man. It was a great show. Really appreciate you guys. Remember, we will be back here on Monday to grade this specific mock that we did here tonight, give you our takes. Who knows, maybe we'll jump in a best ball underdog draft, but we'll see what happens, man. So again, from all of us over here at Get Right, for Classic Mike, who couldn't make it today, he was out playing some softball, so hopefully he's not hemmed up on his couch right now, being all old man sore after that softball game with his back. But we missed you over here, Classic. We'll see you next Friday, my guy. From my boy Franco, who'll be with me here on Monday. To our boy Dustin, of course, our boy Tycoon, and these two wonderful gentlemen here that spent their Friday night hanging out with me here. So let's get it done, man. So other than that, man, anything else you guys have to say, or are we ready to get out of here and call it a night?
Enjoy it and have fun with it, man. That's what it's about.
Awesome, man.
That outro music.
Let's do it, baby. Cue it up. We out. See you guys on Monday.
Fantasy is the play. Marking nothing, but I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go and roll your sleeves up.